Hi everyone, welcome back to Toxic Tuesdays. I hope you've all been having a lovely week. The family and I are finally out of ISO. We've all tested negative, which is wonderful news, so we're all finally able to leave the house. For those of you who are new here, my name is Bethany Vujan, and every week I do an episode called Toxic Tuesday, where I talk about a toxic plant that you may have in your backyard, and we learn a bit more about the symptoms that occur with it and a little bit of the history as well. Now for this week's video, we are looking at Datura. Datura has many names that it does go by. This includes thornapple, devil's weeds, moonflower, devil's trumpet, and hell's bells. But the more common name that it does go by is Jimsonweeds. Datura is a genus of 9 species of poisonous Vespertine flowering plants that belong to the nightshade family Solanaceae. They are herbaceous leafy annuals, which means that they only live for one growth cycle before they die and actually reach a height of 2 meters. The leaves are alternate and they are 10 to 20 centimeters long, 5 to 18 centimeters broad, with lobed or toothed margins. The Vespertine flowers are trumpet-shaped like Brugmansia, and they vary in colour from white to yellow to pink to a pale purple. The flowers can reach lengths of anywhere between 5 to 20 centimetres, with the mouth of the flower between 4 to 12 centimetres wide. Datura species also bears fruit. It's a spiny capsule, hence the name thornapple, and it's about 4 to 10 centimetres long and 2 to 6 centimetres in width. When ripe, it will split open, revealing lightweight and bean-like seeds that are able to be easily distributed to surrounding areas on the wind. Mexico is considered the centre of origin for the genus Datura. However, it is native to the dry, temperate and subtropical regions of the Americas. It was a long-standing belief that there were several species that were actually native to other areas of the world. However, more recent research has actually shown that all of these species are early introductions that originated from Central America. These include Datura ferox in China, Datura mattel in India and Southeast Asia, and Datura leichhardtii in Australia. If you're wanting to cultivate this in your garden, it will prefer a sunny spot with dry soil as it doesn't like wet roots. Be aware though that if you do plant this outdoors, it is highly likely that it will self-seed and actually become an invasive species in your garden, so you need to make sure that you keep on top of it. If you're wanting to pot this, make sure that there is adequate porous and aerated soil with good drainage, as Datura is susceptible to fungi growing in its root area. The Datura genus has the honour of being listed one of the most toxic plants alongside Atropa belladonna and Brugmansia. This is due to it having the same tropane alkaloids that are found in the other nightshade members, atropine, hyoscyamine and scopolamine. Now, I did do a video on Atropa belladonna and Brugmansia, which you should watch after this video if you haven't already, where we actually discussed these particular tropane alkaloids. Now, for those of you who are new here, these particular alkaloids are what make the plant highly poisonous, but they also make the plant a hallucinogenic, which is probably why it's been used for centuries as a poison. These alkaloids are found through the entirety of Datura, and the level of toxicity will depend on a number of factors. You'd be looking at how old the plant is, where it was growing, what the weather conditions are, which parts were ingested, as well as how much. Intoxication of Datura generally shows the effects of anticholinergic delirium, which is where the afflicted is unable to tell the difference between reality and fantasy. They can experience bizarre thoughts, hypothermia, which is the dangerously high body temperature, tachycardia, which is your rapid heart rate, so over 100 beats per minute, bizarre and possibly violent behaviour, dry skin and dry mouth. They can experience illusions, severe mydriasis, which is the dilation of the pupils, which can result in painful photophobia. Photophobia is where they have an abnormal intolerance to the visual perception of light, and that can actually last quite a few days. Other physical symptoms can also include muscle stiffness, urinary retention, temporary paralysis, dysphoria, which is the state of unease, and confusion. Amnesia is another symptom that has also been reported. Symptoms can start in as little as 30 to 60 minutes after ingestion and generally last 24 to 48 hours. There have been some reported cases though where symptoms have actually persisted past 2 weeks, so this is not a plant to play around with. Datura's toxicity is actually the reason behind a famous mnemonic. Now you may have heard parts of this before, or you may know the whole thing. Blind as a bat, mad as a hatter. Red as a beet, hot as a hare. Dry as a bone, the bowel and bladder lose their tone and the heart runs alone, which is in reference to the symptoms of poisoning. Datura has been used throughout history in many different ways. It's believed the Delphi priests of ancient Greece actually used Datura to assist the priestess with her legendary visions. Although if I'm being a bit facetious, I do wonder how they weren't able to foretell or foresee that Roman Emperor Theodosius I was going to close them down to get rid of all the pagan cults. But that's just me. Practitioners of witchcraft, or the craft, used to use Datura in their incantations. They would smoke it and the alkaloids would actually induce the feeling of flying. Datura played an important role in Aztec religion as well, with the medicine men and women, but also with their necromancers. It was used in ritual sacrifice as a narcotic and also as a painkiller in initiation rituals. In modern day Mexico, Datura species are actually still used in sorcery and occult practices. The species Datura stemonium is more commonly known as zombie cucumber in Haiti, as it's used by Haitian voodoo bocas, I think it's bocas, it's sorcerers, to actually create zombies. Now, I actually found this really interesting, and I found a site that goes through the process and how it's all done, and there's actually 2 different types of zombies that can be created. There's a physical zombie or there's a spiritual zombie. I'll pop it in the description box down below if you'd like to check it out, and yeah, leave me a comment with your thoughts on it, because I found it fascinating. I found the same species was actually also used to create cigarettes for asthma sufferers, which sounds a bit like an oxymoron, but remember those tropane alkaloids we were talking about before? Yeah, so they actually have amazing medicinal properties when used in the correct dosages. Now granted, these alkaloids can be created in a lab now, we don't actually need the plant, but originally the leaves were used to create cigarettes because they did provide temporary relief for asthma sufferers. Now I was also looking for cases of Datura poisoning to be able to add to this video. And it was actually really, really interesting because I found a bunch of them. Like, I mean a bunch. There were so many, it was just ridiculous. And I'm like, why? Why are there so many cases? So I was having a bit of research into it, and apparently it was a thing in the 90s and early 2000s for teenagers and young adults to smoke Datura to get high. Which is probably one of the stupidest things that I've heard, because obviously there were some deaths and a lot of people got quite seriously ill. So thankfully this practice doesn't seem to be happening anymore, but there was like a whole bunch of cases that I've found. So I've actually popped them in, some of them anyway, in the description box down below. So if you're interested in reading up on what some of the symptoms were that the patients experienced, you can read that down below. That is everything today, guys, on Datura. Thank you so much for spending some of your day with me. It is always appreciated. I'd love it if you could chuck a comment down below and tell me what you learnt today. I always love hearing from you guys. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you all on the next episode of Toxic Tuesday next week, guys. And I hope you have a lovely week. Keep on learning and stay safe. Bye.